Hello and welcome to my channel, I Went to Lose Gaming. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I won't be doing a lot of editing, but I really wanted to actually make this video. Both for you guys to all see, but also actually a bit for myself. And let me actually take out these slimes really quick. So what this video is going to be, it's going to be an account overview and kind of a tour through my account. I was curious to kind of snapshot what it's like today at around 6 months or so, however long this game has been out, plus a couple weeks is when I started playing, maybe plus a week or so. And since then I've been doing max refills, and in case you're wondering why I'm here, this is actually where I take a lot of character pictures to get screenshots because the background is nice and blue, so it's very easy to crop out and, you know, get a nice cropped image of the character. So I guess let's just get right into it. We're gonna start with my artifacts because I think the artifact quality has a huge impact on, you know, essentially really how powerful anyone's account is. And yeah, I have a lot of artifacts, so it might take kind of a while to go through. And in case you're wondering why I'm not going through characters and then showing my characters' artifacts, it's because my artifacts don't actually ever really stay on any individual character. For any individual showcase video that I make or any individual, you know, world record run or whatever, or just something silly like Amber's 2 bunnies two-shotting the Geovishat, whatever, right? I'm always shuffling around artifacts on most of my characters. There are a few characters where the artifacts don't really shuffle around, and I think when I go through my characters I'll show that. But so anyway, I guess we'll just go through each one, starting off with these 5 Heart of Depth pieces that happen to be at the top. I guess they're sorted by quality, which is interesting. Is there a way to sort them by set? No, there isn't. But yeah, so I guess we could just start off. You'll notice that I actually have a lot of bad artifacts. Anyway, let's just go through them. First, we have this energy recharge. I guess I can just go through them, and if I spot anything interesting, I'll stop at that one. But this one is I guess one of my better energy recharge artifacts that I usually have on Venti. And this is kind of a bad... I use this for, I think, Burst Damage Child with very low crit rate. This one, it's one of the few EM main stats that actually rolled both crit rate and crit damage, and I guess I just have it on Sucrose to maximize her elemental mastery. This Hydro Cup, sometimes I have it on support Mona, and also if I want Mona to do a little bit more damage, the energy recharge is nice, and it being on set is nice. This Pyro Damage Cup is one of my better Pyro Damage Cups actually, and I do use it often. And this Bolide headpiece is actually pretty insane. It rolled with 4 base stats, and on top of that, everything rolled into crit rate and crit damage. So when I do have the opportunity to use Bolide or have an offset flower, I often use this piece. This one goes on Zhongli, of course, and you know, I often split these two between Zhongli and Traveler, depending on, you know, who needs to do more damage or who needs to have crit rate, whatever it is, right? And then I have my Bloodstained. I've been farming a lot of Noblesse Oblige dungeons, but Bloodstained is actually one of my worst sets overall. So it's funny because my best pieces for it are the flower and the feather. If I remember correctly, maybe there's some down below, but we also have this Hydro Cup, which is unfortunately my best Hydro Cup at the moment. And you know, I've been doing max refreshes all the time, and yet still my Hydro Cup is this, you know, not very good thing that I have to use all the time. And you'll see that a lot of my elemental goblets are actually pretty bad. I think my best ones are by far Pyro goblets. So anyway, I have this attack one. I recall using this on my DPS Chi-Chi, because for DPS Chi-Chi, if you run her with C6 Bennett, an attack cup actually helps her physical damage, cryo damage, and pyro damage. I was just experimenting, so that's why I have this thing. This piece is a good Noblesse support piece. I often have this on Bennett. I don't have it on him right now, but you know, this usually goes on Bennett because of the nice energy recharge on it. And this piece, this defense piece, I originally wanted it to be for Albedo. I don't know what I have on Albedo right now, but maybe I do have this on him sometimes, but right now I don't, clearly. And as for this, I don't know why I have this. I don't know why it's here. This is pretty pretty crappy. Maybe I will get rid of it later. So then I have this Elemental Mastery Cup, level 20, I believe. I don't remember why I have this either, but maybe this was something that I had on Sucrose or on Lisa. Whatever it is, here it is. And this HP goblet I built way back in the day when I built Zhongli as a pure HP support. Now I don't really use it because it doesn't do more damage, and for the most part survival's not a big issue on my account. It's usually just try to get bigger numbers. And this is actually sadly one of my better attack percent witches timepieces, and I farmed a ton of Crimson Witch, and yet one of my best timepieces for the witch set is this one, which makes me sad to see. This piece is great. I don't think I actually use it all that much, even though it's pretty good, but yeah. And then this one is decent too. I also don't use this one that much. I mean, it's on Xingqiu, right? So I'm probably using it just for the energy recharge. This piece here, I believe I took it to max level because it might have been an improvement for my Hu Tao, but it ended up not being, so I don't really use it much. Oh man, if I keep telling, the entire backstory behind each artifact, I actually can't believe I remember what I use all these artifacts for, or when I enhance them. But that's actually pretty shocking to me because my memory is pretty bad. But anyway, this is my usual Hu Tao nuke crit damage helmet, and this one often lives on her, but because of how often I change Hu Tao's build around, from either a charge attack carry or a 0% crit nuker, this piece gets moved around a lot. And this piece, I believe, is just on Diluc for now, but I should actually probably get rid of it. This is one of my older Crimson Witch crit damage hats that I used on Klee way back in the day, way back when it was Abyss with the cryo stuff, So this piece, it's a decent crit rate for Thunder Soother, and it's funny actually, or Thundering Fury, sorry. My Thundering Fury set is just pretty bad. Unfortunately, I haven't really farmed that dungeon much, so it is what it is. And here, oh yeah, okay, so I guess I do have a decent Hydro Damage Cup that I have on Mona. It's not great, it'd be better with some crit damage on it instead of, yeah, but beggars can't be choosers, so I'm not going to complain about this. This piece I'm actually really happy with because, as you guys know, Wander's Troop is a pain to farm. So me getting this piece, I was pretty psyched about it. And I also have a second one that's really good as well, that I often use as an off-piece, timepiece for various builds. And here I have my Elemental Mastery one, which is not nearly as good. It rolled way too much into defense percent. It doesn't have crit damage, doesn't have attack percent. You guys know the drill. But I believe this still, if I want to do like just a pure damage showcase for Ganyu and see her biggest possible melt numbers, this is still a bit better, even this, but I don't know, it really depends on how much Elemental Mastery you're stacking in the combo. Now both these headpieces, or the crown circlets, came out roughly about the same. This one does a tiny bit more damage, has Elemental Mastery, but not great, but it did roll twice into crit rate. So this is the main one I use on Ganyu. I do have this one, I don't know why it's on Xiao. And this feather is also really good because I believe it rolled twice into crit rate and 3 times into crit damage. So I was actually very fortunate with my Wander's Troop set because normally Wander's Troop is a huge pain to farm. So, me just having this kind of gives, my account a lot of opportunities. But anyway, I have this Geo Damage Goblet, which is sadly one of my best Geo Damage Goblets. And I often use this on Zhongli when he needs more crit rate. And this piece, it's just an EM Sucrose piece, Viridescent Veneer, which is nice. And I actually have quite a few on-set Anemo Damage Goblets for the Viridescent, but none of them are great, but none of them are terrible, so this is one of them. Meanwhile, while I was farming all those Wanderer's Troops, I did get a few decent Gladiators pieces as well. Mostly flowers, as you'll see, but this one's pretty good as well. I was pretty happy with this one. This is actually one that I got really recently, I believe in the last month or so. So this is a fairly new addition to, some of my various DPS Chi-Chi builds or whatever I do with it. And here I have, it's an acceptable Gladiator since I don't really use Xiao. It's on him, and, I don't give my best artifacts to characters I don't use that often. And this artifact piece, not bad. I guess it has some HP percent. I actually don't remember when I got this one. And this one is actually an extremely well balanced headpiece with a good amount of crit rate. I believe it's also my highest crit rate gladiator's flower, so I do end up often using this on a lot of my characters and having to swap it around. I actually never use this, so I should probably get rid of it. I believe Asian Guy Genshin has an insane gladiator's circlet that he often mentions in his videos. I wish I had that, but you know, alas, I can't really complain with all the artifacts that I do have. So anyway, this Gladiator's Destiny, not bad. A couple rolls into defense and HP, which is not ideal, but you know, clearly I'm still using it, so must be one of my better choices. And this piece just lives on albedo. These are actually relics of the past, but I do still occasionally use them. I do think that someday I'll probably get rid of them, but you know, whatever. And actually thinking about it, I realized that this is the circlet, so I don't actually use it now that I think about it because I use the healing percent one. But anyway, let's move on here. This is a nice Maidens. This is actually sadly, my best crit rate circlet. And it had a couple rolls into crit damage, but doesn't even have attack percent, but it is decent on, like, for example, physical DPS Zhongli. This is one of my better Blizzard Strayer sets, or Blizzard Strayer crit damage helmets that I use on Ganyu for her Blizzard Strayer build. And this one may be really salty because look at how incredible the 4 stats on it are, but then it all rolled into flat attack, you know, and I think 1 in crit damage being the lowest possible roll. So yeah, not happy about this one. This one could have been pretty much an insane artifact, but it decided that it did not want to be. And this piece here is a solid attack timepiece. Sometimes I use it as an off piece. And this is one of my better or best attack timepieces. And I do often use this on Child or Burst Mona, for example. And speaking of Child, I guess he has not a great flower, but perfectly usable. And now we have this crit rate. It's an albedo. And this is one of my best crit damage helmets overall. It rolled twice into crit rate, twice into attack percent. And you know, you really can't get too much better than this, except for perhaps that HP being something else like energy recharge. But you know, energy recharge is a very situational stat to begin with, especially for super endgame accounts like mine, right? Where you just blow things up in 6 seconds, right? So energy recharge is kind of moot at that point. But yeah, this is my best circlet overall. I have this Electro Goblet. So all my Electro Goblets are really bad. And this is the best one that I have. And at least it rolled a few times into attack percent. So it's usable. And this piece looks like a piece that I should honestly sacrifice. We'll go through and clean them up someday. And this is decent for, you know, an HP percent scaling, I guess, shield damage dealer like Zhongli. Although I have never actually used this on Zhongli. So I'm not really sure what I do use it for, but here it is, it exists. And another HP percent bolide that's even better than the previous one. So looking at the previous one, I should probably get rid of this one. Next I have a crit rate bolide. Okay, I guess. And this pretty decent crit damage bolide piece that I do use. I recall using this on my main DPS Traveler, like, you know, spamming her physical attacks, but that build didn't really last long because, you know, Traveler with her sword attacks. So this piece is actually pretty good overall. I'm pretty happy with it. I also used it as a bolide carry piece, but unfortunately not enough crit rate. Rolled once into HP percent, rolled once into attack percent. You know, it's not a bad feather. And this feather is slightly better than the previous one, so I often end up using this one over this one. But yeah, so this is the defense Archaic Petra that I have for albedo, the HP percent Archaic Petra. These ones I farmed way back in the day, prior to Zhongli's release even, and I had actually kept this piece because it had double crit as a timepiece. And I was thinking, hey, maybe someday there will be a defense scaling character. And what do you know? There is a defense scaling character here that uses geo damage. So ended up being perfect for my albedo. And likewise, you know, had this flower which rolled twice into defense. And that's okay because it is on albedo. So this HP circlet is also one of my OG HP percent things that I tried out on Zhongli. And nowadays it doesn't really have a home. I don't really use it on anyone. But anyway, this is an on-set geo damage goblet, which is nice, but unfortunately the rolls did not come out well. Oh, that's right. So I do have this flower for the bloodstain piece that I do use, I guess on my physical DPS builds, like physical DPS Chi-Chi. I think that's how she's built right now. It's got a decent amount of crit damage, but it did roll once into defense. And this feather is also pretty good. Actually, this feather is extremely good. But if you actually compare these two, you'll notice that only one extra roll went into crit rate in comparison to this one. But of course, this one does have two slightly more useful substats than this one does. And now if we take a look at some of these pieces, we can see this attack percent, which rolled multiple times into flat defense. And we can see this energy recharge. So this is surprisingly one of the only energy recharge timepieces I've gotten for the Noblesse set. And that's why, you know, it obviously rolled like complete crap, but I'm still using it on Bennett because all he really needs is energy recharge. So this is one of my better Noblesse flowers. Unfortunately, it does have a lot of elemental mastery, not great on Zhongli, but it is pretty good for other burst characters that would, you know, use crit damage. I'm actually not sure. Oh, that's why. Okay, because this, my slightly better Noblesse is on Mona. And I believe I had Mona geared for an Amber Abyss 12 run. This piece, it's funny, it actually rolled pretty well for Rosaria. At the time that I rolled it, I was thinking that it was just pretty useless, but the high energy recharge is good for support Rosaria. Obviously, the crit rate is good for support Rosaria too. And this piece, I'm actually not sure why I have it, but it did roll a lot into Elemental Mastery. I think I was using this to see if it would do more damage than, you know, the crit damage focused one, but I believe it did not. So I think this one needs to go. And I have, you know, quite a few circlets with various amounts of crit rate, crit damage on them, and also this HP one, which I believe I made way back in the day for Zhongli. This is my only crit rate. So as you can see, my account actually has almost no good crit rate circlets. I believe I only have that earlier Lava Walkers and maybe one other one that's usable. So this one, you know, pretty bad, but I guess, you know, it's got to make do with what you have. As for these, I currently have my best Noblesse Feather on Mona, and, you know, have some decent ones. This one usually goes onto my secondary Noblesse Burster if I need, you know, two Noblesse Bursters on a single team. For example, on a Mona Child speedrun for 12-3-1, this one would go on Mona, and Mona's would go on Child. But anyway, yeah. So then we have this Ganyu Cryo Goblet, but I believe it's actually my most well-rounded and overall best cryo damage piece, otherwise I wouldn't be using it on Ganyu. And here we just have a random Hydra damage goblet, and clearly this is an HP scaling, crit rate, crit damage timepiece for Hu Tao. Sadly, it rolled quite a few times into the flat HP instead of crit rate or crit damage. And here, I guess I have a more crit rate focused HP timepiece that I did use with carry Hu Tao or charge attack Hu Tao on occasion. And I think I would shuffle between these two depending on whether I wanted more damage or whether I needed more crit rate. Oh man, this is taking forever, so I guess we'll see how you guys feel about me rambling about my artifacts, but let's just keep going. So this is a pretty good Elemental Mastery timepiece, especially just for Nuke Hu Tao. There's only 2 wasted rolls in it, and for an Elemental Mastery timepiece, that's actually pretty good because Elemental Mastery timepieces are pretty rare. And we have this attack percent, the timepiece. Like I said, my attack percent timepiece for Crimson Witch are all pretty bad, with the previous one with 10% crit rate being the best one that I have. And this is a really good flower that I got, and this one's actually pretty recently. I believe these rolls were pretty low, but you know, it's still 4 rolls into crit rate and crit damage accordingly, with the 5th roll being the Elemental Mastery. And that's, you know, pretty much as good as it's going to get. Maybe attack percent in some situations would be better than energy recharge, or, you know, shuffle between those 3 stats. But anyway, this piece is interesting. I probably had it for Hu Tao for some reason. But I don't think I actually ever really used this. So this one probably, oh, it's not even locked anyway. And here I have this very, very mediocre flower that I'll probably get rid of. And I have this, which is not bad. It's got a good amount of energy recharge for quality of life or for maybe a specific situation that I'm not thinking of right now. I guess I should actually lock this one in. Probably useful on my third or fourth Pyro DPS. But here we have my circlets for Crimson Witch, and this is a really good piece for Hu Tao. But surprisingly, I actually almost never use this on Hu Tao, because when Hu Tao is using the Staff of Homa, she needs a lot of crit rate, so I end up using a crit rate headpiece instead. And this piece is also very solid. I usually use this on my main TPS Klee, but I guess right now I'm not using it on her. Oh yeah, because I have it on Amber. And this piece, for no reason, is on Xingqiu, but it's just got solid crit rate. Maybe if there's ever a defense percent scaling pyro character that does pyro damage, this one will be good on that character. And oh my gosh, okay. I really need to go a lot faster, so here are my feathers. Some of them are pretty good. I'm going to see which one. This one's my favorite. Obviously, it rolled very similarly to the flower. But you can see how these two are nearly carbon copies, with one of them having an HP percent and the other having elemental mastery. And I have a decent pyro damage goblet. I have a couple, I guess. This one is pretty good. Rolled into attack percent and 3 times into crit rate. And I have this one as well that I guess I'm using on Hu Tao. This is probably one of my higher damage nuke setups for Hu Tao, hence why I'm using it on her. And I have this cryo damage goblet, which I did use on Ganyu for a while. Right now, I've been favoring to have a little bit more crit rate on Ganyu, hence why I was using the previous one. And as I mentioned earlier, my Thundering Fury set they're all pretty bad. As you can see, I've put probably the least amount of resin into farming the Electro Dungeon. None of these flowers are that great. This crit damage helmet is interesting, has a lot of HP percent. And this is a pretty solid Wanderer's Troop piece, but sadly, I guess it's not my best. Guess I'm using, oh, okay. So yeah, right now it's focusing on crit rate, but overall this piece is better than this one. So this piece here, very high just for damage, pure damage, right? No crit rate. So there's a lack of consistency, but it does do good damage. And we have this pretty solid attack timepiece, solid viridescent pieces, and I actually don't really have too much to say about my viridescent pieces because, you know, yeah, they're just here. You can see them. And we have a few gladiator pieces that started off with 3 substats, and this is my best crit damage flower that I own. I know there's like other players with like over 40%. This is my personal best one on any of my pieces. None of my pieces have hit 40% crit damage, and this is just the highest crit damage I own, besides it being a main stat, of course. So, you know, we have a couple more reasonable gladiators pieces and a couple usable feathers. And this is actually a pretty good physical damage goblet, especially for the fact that it's with gladiator as well, which is very nice because, you know, the 4-piece set bonus, blah, 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 right? So this is an on-set physical damage bonus gladiators, which is really good. And we just have some maiden pieces that I'm not sure what to do with anymore. And we have a few of these. And despite this actually rolling pretty well, I almost never use it. So we also have some Blizzard Strayer pieces. I actually spent a little over 10,000 resin, and I haven't gone back to farm any Blizzard Strayers. So if you want to see the result of 10,000 resin in terms of, you know, just farming a single artifact set, that I know for sure is how much I spent, because, you know, I actually jotted it down. Then here it is, very mediocre. Well, some of them are pretty solid. Like this feather is very nice. I do often use this. And now we have some lower level ones, which aren't really worth highlighting, and some fodder ones that didn't quite turn out well. And finally, a bunch of ones that I should eventually upgrade. Oh, I actually have this attack percent timepiece that has some potential. Why don't we actually enhance it real quick with one of the level 20 fodders that I didn't like from earlier. And we will give it one more. Let's make sure this isn't very good. Yeah, so even if this rolled into crit damage, oh, okay, it's not bad. It's not bad. And we can get rid of... Yeah, this is why I have so many. It's because I'm pretty indecisive with this stuff. If this one rolled into crit damage at the end, sadly, it's still one of my better crit rate helmets. That's why I guess I've kept it all this time. But why don't we actually get rid of this noblesse piece? Because I was saying earlier that it's pretty useless. Okay, so YOLO. Alright, so rolled once into crit rate, once into crit damage, once into HP. Just finish it off real quick. Oh boy, it's going to take a while. Ugh, okay, so, I mean, it's usable, I guess. 4 total rolls into crit. Usable. Anyway, that's it for artifacts for now. I think this already took way too long, so let's move on to weapons. You guys can see which weapons I've wailed a bit on and which ones I haven't. I have 2 Refinement 5 Wolf's Gravestones, which is not good. Didn't make me very happy. I was trying to get 1 extra Staff of Homa at Refinement 1 just to use on Zhongli, for example. But unfortunately, I never got that, so Zhongli is stuck using this Primordial Jade Wing Spear. And, you know, R5 Elegy for the end. This weapon is really good for whales like myself. We're trying to, you know, break certain damage ceilings and thresholds. But yeah, it's a really good weapon if you're trying to, you know, do that type of stuff with it. And I have the R5 Amos bow for Ganyu. And here I have the Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds at Refinement 5. And I have the, let's see, the Skyward Blade, unfortunately, at Refinement 5, as well as a couple extras. And yeah, actually, I guess my weapons aren't that crazy. You know, you guys have probably seen a lot crazier accounts with crazier weapons. But I do have quite a lot of level 90 weapons because every time I make a video on said weapon, I usually take it to level 90. And it's funny because I was actually going for refinements on the Primordial Jade Wing Spear, but I ended up just getting a whole bunch of Primordial Jade Cutters. I only got 1 Jade Wing Spear, if I remember correctly, and then I got the other one later off banner. But I got 5 of the Jade Cutters, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to stop. And it ended up being, you know, far more valuable than the Primordial Jade Wing Spear. Because, you know, I use it on Traveler all the time, Jean all the time, etc., etc. So then I've leveled up a lot of weapons that I actually pretty much will never use. Although I may stick this on Fischl when someone else needs to use the Skyward Harp as an example, like if I do Fischl Child. Purely for content's sake, I made this, I made this, I made this, I made this, and this, and this. These are all purely for content's sake. And I do have, I was going to go with the Dragon Spine at first, but then I decided that I can use the Crescent Pike on Zhongli as well. So that's why I ended up with the Crescent Pike. A bunch of miscellaneous stuff. It's fodder at this point. So what about this stuff? Yeah, you can see materials. Everyone's got them. Right, I've got some. You've got some. And I have a lot of these because I haven't built Razor or whoever else might use them. I don't even know. But I keep just getting these tusks. And, you know, I could Triple Crown Zhongli based on this alone. But hopefully I can exchange some of them for shadows or for shards to level up Ganyu and Hu Tao respectively. And as you can see, I spent all my resin on the EXP books during the water hydro boss event. Food, lots of food. Lots of these things, right? You just got these types of materials. Been farming these silk flowers recently. Yeah, I guess there's nothing really remarkable to say in this section. Or glitter and whatever. So next, let's go through my characters. Like I mentioned earlier, my artifacts are always all over the place, so most of my characters' builds will be completely messed up because I usually only have my active team properly built. So here I have Ganyu. She has the Amos bow, pretty solid stats. In the overworld, I typically focus more on crit rate, hence why it's a bit heavier on the crit rate than I usually would run. For example, for Abyss runs or whatever, I have a lot more crit damage because everyone likes seeing those big numbers in those types of videos. Constellation 6, talents 10, 10, 12, and I have spent every single shadow on Ganyu, and you can see that I still can't even level this up because I have not been getting any shadows since then. So Ganyu is by far, my favorite character, I would say, in the game. She is, she just trivializes everything and makes farming and literally doing almost anything except for cryo dungeons super easy, just completely easy. And here I have minimum HP Bennett. Usually I don't need much healing, so whenever I use him with Hu Tao, I don't want him healing her over 50%. And I was using Hu Tao earlier. I swapped Zhongli in, that way you could see their stats without any party resonances. So anyway, Venti, my go-to elegy user, also great for, destroying and annihilating every single small monster in existence. And 4-piece Viridescent with energy recharge focus. C6, 2, 9, 12, standard stuff. Zhongli, my favorite husbando by far. Overall, my second favorite character, which it actually surprised me personally because, I generally play these games for waifus, not husbandos. But yeah, Zhongli, for some reason, has always been one of my favorite characters. I think right now he has a crit rate focused overworld build for just, meteor stuff and, standard artifact set. Constellation 6, 9, 12, and 13. Now, really, this, wasn't really necessary to crown, but it's one of my favorite abilities in the entire game. Maybe it actually did help break into that damage threshold for my 6-second Traveler Zhongli Abyss 12-3 run, but I'd have to actually go back and math it out, which, I'm not really going to do right now. So Traveler was actually surprising for me. I initially built Traveler so I could feel like I could relate a bit more to free-to-play players, and I just wanted to see how much I could push Traveler to her limits. But then I ended up just mostly using her with the Primordial Jade Cutter, so, totally relatable, am I right? But clearly, right now she's not properly built. I think usually she has about 90, 180 when it comes to her stats. And usually I have the 2-piece Geo or 2-piece Archaic plus 2-piece either Noblesse or either Gladiators. And sometimes I run 4-piece Bolide for fun, but yeah, whatever. Talents 9, 11, 12. I should level this up and not so tomorrow I'll probably level this one up to 12. Actually, was I saving these for someone else? I don't remember, but yeah. Mona was actually who I re-rolled over and over at the beginning for an entire week straight to get, and that's actually why I started the game a week later or a week or two later, was because I was just re-rolling during that entire first week until I got Mona and Diluc in my first few pulls. Diluc was just whatever, I was okay with that, but Mona was who I was targeting, and she was actually my main DPS up until I got Klee. But anyway, right now Mona is built for burst damage, pure burst damage, and we can see Widsith, right? I think she's actually properly built right now because I recently used her in my Amber speedrun of 12.31. And, just 6, and we have this being the one that's most leveled. And I just very recently got Mona to Constellation 6, and I've never actually tried this one out even, and that's kind of a shame. I should try this out. But yeah, let's move forward. We have Albedo. Albedo, great off-field support DPS and Harbinger of Dawn. It doesn't look like he's properly built right now, but he might be. I'm actually not sure. Yeah, I mean, those are reasonable stats, I guess. 0 constellations, Albedo didn't really vibe with me, and I don't usually wail for husbandos. And you can just see his talents are whatever. Despite the low investment, comparatively speaking to my other characters, Albedo is still often one of my better choices for a lot of teams. So here we have Xiao. And I really like his spear kicking animation, one of the best in the game. Yeah, I doubt he's properly built right now. If we look at his stats, 63, 144, usable. But usually I do use the Primordial Jade Wing Spear on him if I do actually use him, which I don't. And I have no constellations on him, and his talents are still all 666 because I've used every single shadow that I've gotten on Ganyu. Next is Jean, and I very recently leveled up and built Jean. Jean currently is not properly built because her and Traveler share a lot of the same gear. But anyway, Jean has been a lot of fun, and no other character can like just yeet things straight into space, and Jean has been one of my favorite characters recently to use. She's great for exploration as well because of the increased movement speed and being a Nemo. And I have her pretty decently leveled, missing a couple plumes to bring that up to 12. So Chi-Chi was my very first Constellation 6 off banner 5-star, and at this point I think I have Constellation 14 Chi-Chi. Not too thrilled about that, but it is what it is. Chi-Chi actually really helped me way back in the day because back then, everyone was super undergeared and having a healer was very overpowered back in the day. Well, okay, having Chi-Chi was actually pretty good because she could actually keep you alive in the old Abyss 12, whereas Barbara could not, right? Barbara just got you frozen all the time. But that was back when, Abyss 12 was actually difficult, at least for like, whales and stuff. But yeah, so Chi-Chi normally I actually build her as a main DPS. Right now she's not built for that because Traveler has, a lot of her stuff equipped. But she's pretty fun to use as a main DPS, and you can see I've actually leveled her normal attacks quite a bit. And I've actually leveled these ones up pretty well as well. Next we have Child. And Child is a character that I actually don't like very much. I don't really like using him. I don't like his character that much. But, that's just my personal bias. And you'll notice it wasn't until very recently that I ever made any videos on him. But usually he's running the 4-piece Heart of Depth. Right now he's not because Mona has a couple of the pieces. He is at Constellation 6, and he would not be at Constellation 6 if it weren't for the fact that I had gotten Constellation 6 Diona by the time I had gotten Constellation 4 or 5 Child. So I was pretty salty about that because I didn't want any constellations on Child at all. Actually, I didn't want Child at all. I was just trying to get Constellation 6 Diona for the 200 EM. But somehow I ended up with Constellation 5 Child. I was like, what the heck, I'll just get him to Constellation 6. If I remember correctly, I pulled 2 Childs at once in a single 10 pull. I was pretty salty about that. But, I have leveled him up a fair amount to the point where he's usable. And he is still my go-to choice for the Crimson Witch of Flames dungeon because no one else can really break those pyro bubbles on those 2 Abyss Mages as fast as he can, at least as far as I'm aware. Next is Hu Tao. I've really enjoyed Hu Tao a lot. She is currently sporting the 0% crit rate build for her Constellation 6 nuke, which gives her, 100% crit rate. So basically, she just deletes something every minute. Very nice because I was farming the Geo Primo Vishap earlier, so every time he just respawned, just one-shot him over and over. Fun stuff. And Hu Tao, I did crown her first. And I would like a couple more shadows to bring her normal attack to 9. And I'm not sure if I'll crown this because this is overall a pretty small gain in her damage. So I believe it's like between 2 to 3% that each level actually gains for this. But anyway, let's move forward. So Klee is actually what made me fall in love with this game. And Klee is just the most adorable character I think ever created in all of, content media in existence. And Klee just has carried me through pretty much this entire game up until Ganyu was released. But I do often use Klee. Klee is one of my staples for the overworld. My general overworld team is Ganyu, Bennett, Venti, Ordzongli, and Klee in the 4th slot because Pyro DPS plus Ganyu pretty much covers every single thing that you could run into. And, it's not optimal for any specific thing, but it can handle literally everything in the entire game as far as, off the top of my head. So just a very, very good character. You know, she's unlike Hu Tao, she has no downtime, so I don't have to, you know, let's say I didn't kill a cryo slime in the duration of Hu Tao's E, you know, I don't have to wait another 7 seconds or whatever to kill it with a character like Hu Tao. Instead, Klee can just be there and kill them very quickly and efficiently. So yeah, Klee has been one of my favorite characters ever since her release, and she's Constellation 6. And I should actually level up the Sparks and Splash to 12 soon, but you know, most of her damage doesn't really come from this, at least with overworld stuff, and that's where I mainly use her. So anyway, moving forward, oh yeah, I guess I also crowned Klee's normal attack, so yeah. Moving on to Diluc. I did use Diluc as my sub DPS for Mona way back in the day. Back during release, and that was before, you know, I really had a good understanding of the game and its mechanics. And, you know, I play waifu over meta. That may surprise you guys, but yes, I'm a waifu player over meta. And my Diluc right now is not properly built. I believe Klee has most of his artifacts. But when I do use Diluc, I put on some Crimson Witch pieces. He has level 90 R5 Wolf's Gravestone. Pretty good artifacts. And he does not have his Constellation 6 yet. And I'm hoping to get it soon. So that way I can properly compare him to other 5-star characters. And his talents are pretty well leveled. Maybe I should level this to 12, but you know, it's, yeah, no big deal. So Rosaria, had a lot of fun with Rosaria. And I do have her at Constellation 2 to make her a slightly better support character. And unfortunately, Rosaria is not going to make a huge impact in any of my future teams or current teams with her constellation, so that's why I'm keeping her at Constellation 2. That way when she comes back around with, let's say, a new character or whatever, then I'll roll on that one and get her to Constellation 6, because in the meantime, she won't really be affecting any crucial showcases that I plan to do. But she's a great character at Constellation 0 and even Constellation 2. I usually use her as a crit bot with the Favonius Lance right now. She clearly is not properly geared because I probably stole a few of her artifacts. But 666 talents. I do not have any extra shadows to speak of, so yeah, she's not getting leveled anytime soon. Next is Fischl. I very recently built Fischl, and you know, right now she's not properly geared. I think her artifacts are though. I think she has mostly a proper set of artifacts. Constellation 6, talents, you know, just level up her E. I guess I leveled up her burst too because I probably have a bunch of those materials. Yeah, I still have 12. So yeah. Amber, I actually built her mostly as an elegy support for Hydro nuking, even though I don't like using Hydro nuke child. But in the end, I actually ended up using Amber as, you know, attempted to use her as kind of the main damage dealer. So usually she has a bunny nuke build where, you know, just do as much damage as possible with her Baron bunnies. And right now she's rocking the Skyward Harp. Constellation 6, and that's actually one of the reasons why I decided to build her. And her talents are pretty well leveled. I guess I should level this up soon. One more into her Fiery Rain. Kaching, yeah, I don't really use her, and as we start to get new characters after Kaching, you know, you'll start to see that I don't really use them, and yeah, you can see her talents are just 666. Diona, I have actually properly geared, and she is one of the few characters where the artifacts don't change. I have an HP % focused instructor set, and I built this set specifically just for the double Baron Bunny against the Geovishap. I don't see me moving around these artifacts off her anytime soon because she is a great instructors user, you know, with the elegy, with instructors, and with Constellation 6, she adds, 520 elemental mastery and 40% attack, which is tremendous. Her talents are just 566, so yeah. And now we get further down the line. There's not much to say, but Sucrose has a lot of elemental mastery. With the Thrilling Tale, sometimes I have more elemental mastery I swap out, oh yeah, I swap out her weapon for the sacrificial fragments when I want more elemental mastery on her. Ningguang, I leveled up to 60 out of 70 just for the Zhongli nuke. This one right here, that way it only gets a 12% geo bonus. Xingqiu I have not invested into at all, and I like to keep him uninvested. That way, you know, makes some of my showcases slightly more realistic and slightly more relatable. Even though he is Constellation 6, with how weak he is and stuff, the Constellations probably don't have a big effect. Actually, I don't really understand Xingqiu that well, but, you know, he just makes sword thingies, and yeah. I usually have him built with energy recharge. For showcases, I do have a sacrificial sword that I sometimes remove for showcases, but when I personally do use him, I do use the sacrificial sword. Xiangling, I've only ever used her for Melt Gone Yu. And Chongyun, I used him, you know, very, very little now. Lisa is a character that I do want to build, but unfortunately I did the math and, oh man, just her numbers are just so underwhelming. Like looking at her hold E, which does have big multipliers, right? But like, you know, we're talking, you could do this once every 16 seconds. And on top of that, even with like really good equipment, gear, artifacts, talent levels, she does like a 40,000 damage base. So, you know, you can do way more damage with pretty much anyone else, which kind of makes me sad because I like Lisa a lot. She is top tier waifu, but unfortunately very low tier main DPS. But I do actually plan to take her to 60 out of 70 soon for Eula, specifically because Lisa should be the highest damage amplification possible as an Electro Superconduct support for Eula. So, you know, this 15% decreased defense as well as being able to use the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayer makes her probably the best in terms of just getting the biggest possible nuke out of Eula as possible. She's one of the best supports for that. Next is Kaya. Kaya is actually I'd say my second favorite husbando in the entire game. I like him a lot. I think he has an amazing voice. And I have him built as crit rate. Well, I guess not right now, but when I do use him, I have him built as crit rate with the Favonius sword. When he crits, he gets energy for the whole team, which is nice, but he is not invested at all, being at level 11 out of 20. And we have Noelle, uninvested, 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 and Xinyan. Xinyan is a character that I do like a lot based on her concept, based on her style. I do like the spin to win playstyles, but I have just not gotten around to investing into her yet. I also plan to invest into Xinyan for Eula to support Eula. 15% decreased physical damage, as well as 15% lower physical resistance, and finally Refinement 5 Wolf's Gravestone, and finally being Pyro. So that way in total, I believe she adds 125%, 145% with the, 125% attack percent being all those things with the new artifact set, the Tenacity of the Millilith. So I do plan to bring her up to at least 60 out of 70, I believe, for this, in order for her to support Eula. So wow, did that cover everything? Did I cover everything? I think, yeah, there we go. That's pretty much everything. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Win to Lose, signing out.